Hey guys, if you're interested in making a level 1 deck or a rank 1 deck or just a deck that involves a lot of level 1 monsters, um, this is kind of what video is here for. It's to kind of give some options if you're not really sure what all there is to play. Um, this does not give all that there is you can play. There's a lot of cards that I don't have that would be great for you to play, such as Naturia Cherries, um, Mystic Piper, which lets you like draw cards, and then Just a Confit, which special summons itself for just when you want to, which is limited to once per turn, but it's just you just special summon it. That's kind of all it does. And so those are some that I don't have, but are really great options to play for level 1 monsters. Um, and then I'll go through what the rest of these are, as well as not just monsters, but what other cards you can include, and as well as some variants that you can play if you're playing level 1s. So let's get started. This is probably my favorite level 1 monster, Raid Raptor Last Strix. What this is a 1 card 7 sins. What it does is you tribute it, special summon 1 XYZ Raid Raptor monster from your extra deck. In defense position, its effects are negated and it returns to the extra deck during the end phase. And then, since it fulfills the conditions of 7 sins, you can just rank it up into 7 sins. You won't be able to get to banish your opponent's special summon monsters and then gain the unit, but it will be protected from destruction once, which is just really easy thing you can just use. And then your opponent won't take any damage for the rest of the turn that you activate this. So just keep that in mind. Don't just try and inflict damage by attacking directly with it or something, because they won't take any damage. And then another thing you can do with that is you can instead summon Satellite Cannon Falcon with its effects negated. And then if you have the Rank Up Magic variant, you can use Rank Up Magic Skip Force or Astral Force, and rank up the Satellite Cannon Falcon up by 2. And then that would summon Ultimate Falcon, which is unaffected by other card effects. And then it makes your opponent's monsters lose attack, 1,000 attack. And then it has 2 different ways it can do that. And then also, if there's like your opponent doesn't have a monster that can lose an attack, it'll just inflict 1,000 damage to them. So Raid Raptor Last Strix has a lot of options. I really love the card. It's like I said, it's my favorite. Level 1. Then you've got Glow Up Bulb, of course. You guys know what Glow Up Bulb does. Special summons itself from the graveyard by sending 1 card from the top of your deck to the graveyard. It can only be used once per duel. You've got Big One Warrior. During your main phase, you can send 1 level 1 monster, except this card, from your hand to the graveyard to special summon this card from your hand. Then another card that works well with that is Kinkabile, which cannot be special summoned. It's a spirit monster, so of course it'll return to your hand during the end phase, unless you like use it as an XYZ material or something. But so when it's normal summon, you get a target 1 level 1 monster in your graveyard and special summon that target. So what a easy thing to do is to send a level 1 monster with Big One Warrior to special summon Big One Warrior, and then you can normal summon Kinkabile, and then that will special summon the monster that Big One Warrior sent, and then you can just XYZ summon something like a Lionheart or something. If you're able to make more plays, you can do more stuff, but it's a easy way to get out Lionheart. We've got, of course, Copycat. Really classic card. I'm sure you all know what it does, and if you don't, if you're newer to the game, this is what it does. When it's summoned, you get a target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, and this card gains attack and defense, or its attack and defense become equal to that monster's original attack and defense. So if you target your opponent's 7 sins, this card's attack will become 4,000, and its defense will be 3,000. So it's a really trolly card. It's really fun to play. And it's really common to get. So if you can't afford like Just a Confit or Mystic Piper, which are a little bit more expensive, like $5 plus, or just don't want to spend the money, you can just use other options that I have here. Copycat is a good option too, just for the trolliness. We've got, of course, DD Crow. Target one card your opponent controls and banish it, or one card in your opponent's graveyard and banish it by sending this card from your hand to the graveyard. Evil Thorn, it's a one card, rank 1 XYZ. You open up with 1, you tribute it, inflict 300 damage to your opponent, and then special summon 2 from your deck in attack position with your effects negated, and then you just rank them up into your rank 1 monster. Then we've got the Lyrilusk cards, all 3 of them. If you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. And then if this card is special summoned from the hand, you can special summon 1 Lyrilusk monster from your hand or graveyard. And that's what Turquoise Warbler does. Cobalt Sparrow, if this card is special summoned, add 1 level 1 winged beast type monster from your deck to your hand. So it can also search out that last Strix that I was talking about earlier, and then you can go into 7 Sins with that. Special summon Warbler to special summon Cobalt Sparrow, and then normal summon last Strix and go into a rank 1, and then the 7 Sins play. And then it also gives an additional effect to a Wind XYZ monster that if you summon a Wind XYZ monster using this card, it can't be targeted by cards or cannot be targeted by card effects. And then, of course, you got Sapphire Swallow. If you control a Winged Beast type monster, you can special summon this card and 1 level 1 Winged Beast type monster from your hand. So that would also, include Last Strix. And then you can only use that effect once per turn. And then a Wind XYZ monster that was summoned using this card as XYZ material. If it was XYZ summoned, you can target 1 Lyrilusk monster in the graveyard and attach it as an additional XYZ material. So it's a very good engine to play if you want to play that. Sometimes I go back and forth about if I want to play that engine or just not at all, because it's got its benefits. If you get a great hand, you can just get just an amazing field out, and your opponent's just like, what? But otherwise, I feel like it has a little bit higher chance of bricking, and you're not really able to do a whole lot with it. So I'm kind of like back and forth on it. Sometimes I'll play the engine, sometimes I won't. And then, of course, we've got VGM the Cubic Seed, along with the release of the Dark Side of Dimensions movie. Cannot be destroyed by battle. At the end of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can place this card in as a face-up continuous spell in your spell and trap card zone, and then place 1 cubic counter on that opponent's monster. That monster that has a cubic counter, it's a fiendish chain basically. So your opponent's monster's attack is 0 and its effects are negated. And then when it's your turn again during your main phase, you can special summon this card from your continuous spell and trap zone. We've got Grave Squirmer. If this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, target 1 card on the field, destroy it. Cyber Larva. If this card is targeted for an attack, you take no battle damage for the rest of this turn. And then if this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Cyber Larva from your deck. So it'll just summon out more and more if it keeps getting destroyed. We've got Little Trooper. If this card is destroyed by battle, you can special summon 1 level 2 or lower warrior type monster from your deck in face down defense position. So you can go into like a big 1 warrior, which is a warrior type, or just kind of whatever you want, that as long as it's a warrior and level 2 or lower. And then that's in face down defense position. We've got another one of my favorite level 1 monsters is Mechlord Emperor Weisel. I know a lot of people that I've talked to kind of just don't like this card just because they don't for some reason, I don't know. But it's probably because your opponent can't or you can't attack with other monsters or whatever, or if most people just don't play against synchro decks, so they just kind of find this card irrelevant. But I don't think that they could be any more wrong. This card is amazing, especially in a level 1 deck, because first of all, if your monster gets destroyed by a card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. It's got 2,500 attack and defense. Again, like I said, all other monsters you control cannot attack, but if that's a problem for you, just use it as XYZ material. And then it's also a legendary, like a Six Samurai Shien, not including the traps, because once per turn, when your opponent activates, during either player's turn, when your opponent activates a spell card, you can negate the activation and destroy it. So it's just a really, really amazing card in a level 1 deck, and I recommend playing it at 2 at a minimum because it's just that good. You can just have cards use a dark hole, destroy all cards, and that would include yours. And since it's not restricted to destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can just use the Mechlord Emperor Wiselow to summon itself from your hand when you do that, and just attack your opponent directly because they'll have an open field. This card is amazing. Then you've got the other Mechlord Emperors. This guy, your other monsters can attack, but that's probably because Konami was like compensating for its not so great effect. It does also steal your opponent's synchro monsters, which they all do. If your opponent controls a synchro monster, you can attach that to the whichever one as an equipped spell, and then it gains the attack of that synchro monster. This guy's its base attack is 0, and its attack is gained by half of your current life points, and that changes depending on it's not, well, I kind of misspoke. It's not your current life points, but it's just half your life points. So if your life points go down, the attack goes down. If your life points go up, the attack goes up. And then so that's kind of all what it does. Also, if it does have an equipped synchro monster on it, you can special summon the equipped monster to your side of the field in defense position. So your opponent's got like a Stardust Dragon, which this kind of would happen more back in the 5Ds era. But your opponent has like a Stardust Dragon, you summon Mechlord Emperor Granol, steal the Stardust Dragon, and then you can, special summon it to your side of the field, and it'll have all its effects and everything, so you get to just have your own negations. And then Skyle, however you want to say it, some people have different ways of saying it, so I'm just going to tell you both of them. 2,200 attack and defense. Same summoning conditions, must be summoned if your monsters are destroyed by a card effect. You can steal a synchro monster your opponent controls against attack based on that synchro monster's attack, and then you can send that monster to the graveyard, your opponent's graveyard, and then you can attack directly with Skyle, however you want to say it. So it's decent, but honestly, I feel like the only one that you would want to play is Wiselow, and that's pretty much it. That unless you want to play like a Mechlord kind of version of the deck, like a Mechlord level 1 spam deck or whatever. We've got Marsh Macaron because it's just an amazing card. It's got like an infinite loop basically, with the exception of you can only use the effect once per turn. If this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon up to 2 other Marsh Macaron from your hand, deck, and or graveyard. And then you can only use this effect of Marsh Macaron once per turn. So basically, your opponent has to have 3 monsters that can attack, or else you'll be left with a monster on the field. And if they only have 1 attack or something, you'll have an XYZ play for your next turn. So it's just a really great card that you can sit on. Then we've, of course, got Effect Veiler, Hand Trap, send it from your hand to the graveyard to negate an opponent's monster's effects. We've got Guiding Light. If this card is normal summoned, you can target 1 level 1 light monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So you can use, activate Effect Veiler, and then normal summon Guiding Light, special summon the Effect Veiler from your graveyard. We, of course, have Battle Fader, attack directly, special summon this card in the battle phase. we've got, pretty much all of the Karibos are decent enough that you can play them if you so choose. Not the best, of course, but you can certainly do that. This one is probably one of the better ones, along with Rainbow Karibo for a level 1 deck. During either player's turn, when your opponent activates a monster effect that would inflict damage, you can discard this card, negate the activation. And then when your opponent declares a direct attack, you can banish this card from your graveyard and draw 1 card. If it's a monster, you can special summon it, and then change the attack target to it. You can only use the effect once per turn. So, I don't know, it's decent. If you want to play that, you can. That's up to you. Not amazing like most of the other options, but if that's kind of what you have, make the best with it. And then Rainbow Karibo, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can target that attacking monster and equip it to that monster, and then it cannot attack. So your opponent's monster just can't attack because this will be equipped to it, and that's kind of what its effect says. And then you can only use each effect once per turn, mind you. Its second effect is when an opponent's monster declares a direct attack while this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon it, but banish it when it leaves the field. We've got Treeborn Frog. During your standby phase, if this card is in your graveyard and you do not control a Treeborn Frog already, you can special summon this card from your graveyard, but you must control no spell or trap cards to activate and resolve this effect. We've got, of course, Swift Scarecrow. If your opponent's monster declares a direct attack, discard this card to negate the attack and end the battle phase. Turbo Booster, one of my favorites again. If you've normal summoned this turn, you can special summon this card from your hand. And it's not a once per turn thing, so you can do, if you have all 3 in your hand, you can summon all 3. And it's just a really great card to get off your XYZ plays. And then if you want to use its effect, its main effect is you can tribute this card to destroy 1 monster your opponent controls that battled one of your monsters this turn. So it has something else if you're kind of in a bind and that's like the only thing you can do. You've got that going for you if you need. Arcana Forest the Fool. Basically all this card is kind of for is it's a wall. So you're going to set it, the opponent attacks into it. You can't change the card to defense position, so you don't want to summon an attack position because it'll be stuck there and you'll just take a bunch of damage because it can't be destroyed by battle, so that's really bad. So you're going to set it, then have your opponent attack into it, and then its effect is when it's summoned, toss a coin, and then if it's heads, negate the effects of your opponent's spell, trap, and monster effects that target this card and destroy them, and then it's vice versa if you flip up a tails. But you're not really going to summon it, you're just going to set it. So that's kind of what all of that's for. Infernity Avenger. When a monster you control except Infernity Avenger is destroyed by battle with an opponent's monster and sent to the graveyard, while you have no cards in your hand, you can special summon this card from your graveyard. In that case, the level of this card is equal to the level of your destroyed monster. So in a level 1 deck, it's probably going to stay level 1. We've got Unknown Synchron. If your opponent controls a monster and you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only do that once per duel. Then we've got Sinister Serpent, of course. So during your standby phase, if it's in your graveyard, you can return it to your hand. You'll pretty much always have a monster in your hand that way. And then, like one of the last monsters, I guess, to offer as a recommendation is Mad Reloader. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, send 2 cards from your hand to the graveyard and draw 2 cards. So it's a reloader. It reloads your hand. So that's basically all that I have that I just kind of was able to pick up right away from like stuff that I had out. As far as monsters go, like I said, there's a ton of other ones, Nacheria Cherries, Mystic Piper, just to confit, stuff like that, if you have them. And then you can play instant fusion and summon Thousand Eyes Restrict, steal your opponent's monster, and then it just gets rid of stuff. You can XYZ summon over it, or just let it go to the graveyard at the end of the turn, and then you'll be rid of your opponent's monster. You can play like a creature swap kind of trolley deck and play like Switcheroo, and just kind of make it so that you just summon out a ton of weaklings, and then have your opponent special summon all of their good stuff, and then you just switch control of it and attack over the weaklings for game. That's one variant that you can do. There's I also forgot about Mimiclay. Mimiclay is if your opponent controls a monster, target one level 2 or lower defense position monster you control, and special summon it from your deck in defense position. One monster that has the same name as that monster on the field, but banish it when it leaves the field, and you can only activate one per turn. So another way to get more monsters out. If you play the rank up magic variant, I'd recommend playing this at 3 and 7th one at least 2, because you're going to be using that as either to discard in order to summon your Utopic ZEXAL, or something like where is it? Your Utopic Dragon. So if you draw this or draw it by a card effect, you can just send it to the graveyard to summon a ZEXAL or Utopic Dragon. And you can do the same thing with this if you don't need it. Or if you just draw it normally, you can summon Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Dragon, and then rank it up into Neo Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Dragon, which I have right here. And then another thing is that Utopic Dragon, what is it? Once per turn, you can target one number monster in your graveyard and special summon it in defense position, but its effects are negated. And then, so what that is if you are able to get like this out first, and it eventually finds its way into the graveyard later in the duel, you can summon Utopic Dragon, and then special summon either one of these back to the field. Is it either one? Because let's see, one of them. Yep, XYZ summon from your extra deck one number. Okay. So special summon from extra. Yeah, so you'd be able to special summon Neo Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Dragon back to the field because it was XYZ summoned with this, but Tachyon Dragon was just special summoned, so it wasn't summoned properly. And then, so the only option you'd really have, apart from like number 39 Utopia Roots, would be just like summon a Neo Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Dragon. So you've got that going for you, and then of course it protects itself. But yeah, so you've got all of that. You've got all of those options plus some of the others that I mentioned. You've got the rank up magic variant. You've got a Lyralesque variant. You can use it either with the Lyralesque cards or without. I personally prefer playing without the XYZ cards because it takes a lot of resources, and you're going to put all of your monsters into the one card in most cases. And honestly, it's not the hardest to get rid of. It does protect itself, but it's not like the hardest to get rid of. You know, they've got compulse or stuff that just bounces stuff from your field to your hand, so it's not the hardest to get rid of. Or opponent can just use a quaking mirror force and just flip it face down, and forever. And so I personally don't play this if I'm playing the Lyralesque engine or anything, unless I just feel like playing it. But honestly, this card is kind of risky because it takes all of your materials, or all of your monsters as materials, pretty much, and that's how you get the most out of it. But like I said, it's risky. And then you've got the creature swap variant. So hope you guys liked all what I was talking about. I know it went on a little bit long, but I tried to keep it as short as possible. 25 minutes, I guess, is pretty decent. Let me know what you guys think, and thanks. Bye.